Ethan is really something, managing to stay with a useless cripple for 3 years. Bro, you don't get it. Maybe Ethan has some special kink, this cripple in bed, hee hee. If you ask me, it's Helen who's too cunning, she's tied Ethan down for life with one leg. Laughter echoed from the hotel suite as I stood outside the door, clenching my fists. Until the laughter died down, Ethan's deep voice came through, that's enough. Someone feigned surprise, no way, you can't really be in love with that cripple, can you? After a long silence, I heard the words, how is that possible? I mean, I don't have any weird fetishes. Facing a cripple every day is annoying. If it weren't for 3 years ago. Sis-in-law, what are you doing here? The private room door opened, and everyone's eyes turned to me, mocking, sympathetic, but not a single one surprised. Ethan showed a moment of panic and guilt. He strode toward me, his tone full of reproach, don't you know what's wrong with you? What are you doing coming here? I sat in my wheelchair, locking eyes with him silently, raising my phone, you told me to come. An hour ago, Ethan had sent me a text saying he was drunk and wanted me to pick him up. Ethan pushed me into the private room, closing his eyes as he sighed, are you happy now? The man who had just mocked me raised his hand with a smile, sorry, sister-in-law, we were just joking, wanted to see how much you care about Ethan. He said the texts were sent from Ethan's phone by them, just to prove how much I love him. These people made no effort to hide the contempt in their tone. I looked at Ethan in confusion, it seemed he had known all along. I didn't think you would actually come. He saw what I was thinking and pressed his forehead helplessly. You too, think about it carefully. Even if I got drunk, a designated driver or friends could take me home. What could you do by coming here? I followed his gaze down to my legs. What could I do? Probably just anxiously shaking my wheelchair and rushing out after receiving the message, having to trouble the driver to lift me into the taxi. Looking back now, I was really foolish. I actually became a joke in their eyes. Since you're fine, I'll head back first. I lowered my head and wheeled away, not knowing who had stuck out a foot to block my path. Helen, don't rush off. Have a drink first. Someone handed me a glass, but I was allergic to alcohol. I looked at Ethan again, and he still chose to remain silent. Facing the eyes watching the drama unfold around the room, I silently took the glass. Haha, as expected of Helen, damn. He exclaimed in surprise as I splashed wine on his face. What the hell, you cripple? I switched on the electric mode of my wheelchair and ruthlessly ran over the foot that was blocking my way. Behind me, voices cursed at me, but I paid no attention and thoughtfully closed the private room door for them. Ethan caught up and scolded me. Helen, don't go too far, they're all my friends. He reached out to grab me, but I blocked him, they are your friends, but I am still your wife. You know how to stand up for your friends, yet you turn a blind eye when your wife is insulted? Ethan pressed his lips together, a subconscious sign that he knew he was in the wrong but was unwilling to admit it. Suddenly, I felt it was all pointless and wheeled myself toward the main gate. Just as I reached the gate, he caught up with me again. They do speak without a filter sometimes. But those are all facts. Ethan said something I didn't want to hear. I rubbed my tear-filled eyes hard, trying to keep my voice steady, let's get a divorce. Ethan froze in place, the refusal slipping out instinctively, no, I can't divorce you. I looked at him in confusion, why? I heard it with my own ears, he clearly said he doesn't like me. I used to be able to deceive myself, thinking that even though his friends weren't very willing to accept me, he loved me, and that was enough. Hearing those words today, I finally realized how ridiculous I was. The night wind was a bit chilly, and Ethan took off his jacket to cover my legs. It's my fault. Those words just now were drunken nonsense, don't believe them. Anyway, we're not getting a divorce, okay? Wrapped in Ethan's minty scent, I finally couldn't hold back my tears. He pushed my wheelchair through the bustling street, I'll take you home. He pushed me slowly along the street at night. He must have been lost in thought, so much so that he didn't even notice the pothole ahead. I spoke up to warn him, and after a brief apology, silence fell again. I parted my lips slightly. I want you to know, if you find this troublesome, if you don't love me, we can get a divorce. I have loved Ethan for 10 years, but that doesn't mean I will cling to him desperately. Ethan's voice was displeased. I told you we are not getting a divorce, Helen. I closed my eyes and stopped speaking, memories from the past flooding back. 3 years ago, the moment the laboratory ceiling collapsed, I instinctively pushed Ethan away. I saved him, but was hit myself and lost consciousness. That day, I had planned to confess to him, to finally give an answer to my 7 years of secret love. When I woke from the coma, the first thing I saw were Ethan's bloodshot eyes. Helen, are you out of your mind? Who told you to meddle? I opened my mouth, only to find my throat terribly hoarse. I wanted to tell him it was okay because I liked him and also to repay the kindness of the Shin family. My parents died when I was very young. Without the help of the Shin family over the years, I might have had a miserable life. I tried to get out of bed to pour myself a glass of water, only to realize my legs had lost all sensation. Guilt deepened in Ethan's eyes. He took my hand and said, "From now on, I will be your legs. Helen, let's get married." I admit, in that moment, I was overwhelmed by happiness. Okay. Ethan, actually, I've liked you for 7 years. Ethan held my hand tightly without saying a word, and I instinctively ignored the trace of reluctance in his eyes. I woke up in the morning, and Ethan was already gone. On the bedside table was the milk he had warmed for me. The company has been very busy lately, so you don't need to wait for me to eat dinner at night. I took a sip of milk, sweet. But I never liked drinking sweet milk. The sound of ping-pong balls echoed outside the door, followed by a loud shout, "Sister-in-law, good morning." It was Ethan's cousin. I sighed deeply, thinking to myself that this person was a big trouble. Yvonne hugged me affectionately, but her eyes were full of sarcasm. "Sis-in-law, you really only know how to cause trouble for my brother." At yesterday's drinking party, there were several people my brother needed to network with. You went crazy and ruined it for him. So, what do you think should be done, sis-in-law? I looked at Yvonne calmly. You can have Ethan and me get a divorce. After the rush of happiness faded, I could occasionally sense Ethan's helplessness. He always kept a cool distance from me. His friends weren't like that with me from the start either. Actually, I understood, they were just saying what Ethan couldn't say himself. So I told him more than once, if it was because of a life-saving debt, it wasn't necessary, we could get a divorce. But he never agreed. Yvonne sneered, "You don't really think my brother is refusing to divorce you because he likes you, do you?" She forcibly dragged me into the wheelchair. I struggled, but it was useless. What resistance could a cripple possibly offer? She chuckled softly in my ear, "Come on, I'll take you to see a good show." The good show Yvonne referred to was Ethan on an intimate date with another girl. Through the glass window of the couple's restaurant, I saw with my own eyes Ethan tucking stray hairs behind another girl's ear. The love in his eyes was about to overflow. Yvonne pouted, "See that? That woman is the one my brother really loves." I didn't understand. Then why doesn't he divorce me? Yvonne said angrily, "Because you forced my brother with your so-called life-saving debt. If he divorces you, what would he become? An ungrateful person. What are you pretending to be so magnanimous about? Didn't you arrange all of this yourself? I don't understand why everyone thinks I saved Ethan out of some ulterior motive. I lost my legs, but he lost his freedom. The people inside were so focused that they didn't notice me just outside the window. I smiled, wheeled closer, and gently tapped on the glass. Yvonne didn't expect me to do that, her face stiffened. "What are you doing?" It's really funny, she was the one who brought me here, yet I'm only allowed to watch in silence and sorrow afterward. She was too late to stop me, the two people inside noticed us. Shocked, panicked. Ethan quickly appeared before me. "Helen, listen to me." He didn't know what to say, looking at Yvonne with blame. "Who told you to bring Helen here?" Yvonne said unhappily, "I'm the one who truly cares for the real sister-in-law." Clearly, you two have been in love for many years. I stood there stunned. In love for many years? But before I confessed my feelings to Ethan, I indirectly asked him if he had a girlfriend. His answer was no, otherwise I wouldn't have mustered the courage. Helen, you go home first. Ethan scolded Yvonne, then called a car for me. I raised my hand to stop him. Wait a moment. I want to talk to the lady inside. Ethan frowned, clearly displeased. I gently took his hand and said, you'd better listen to me. Otherwise, I won't hesitate to shout out in public that you have a mistress. I'm disabled, I've grown used to the strange looks over the years. The only ones who'll be embarrassed are you. Ethan's brow furrowed even deeper, but he must have cared about the people inside because the next moment, he pushed me into the restaurant. Ethan, is this your wife, the one who saved you back then? The girl seemed to recognize me, she propped her head up with one hand and smiled at me. Hello, my name is Stella. Ethan's first love. Like those others, she acted as if she bore me no ill will, but it was all malice. Ethan, why don't you take Yvonne over there to sit? I want to have a chat with Miss Helen. In just a few words, she had already taken control. Ethan sat not far away with Yvonne, his gaze filled with worry as he watched us. Stella leisurely stirred her coffee in front of her. Miss Helen, you know, if it weren't for you, I should be the one married to Ethan. I told her, I don't know. I've never seen you in his circle, and I had no idea he had a first love. Stella looked up, her eyes tinged with a hint of grievance. We were in a secret relationship because of my family. Ethan said his family would never agree. Only Yvonne quietly supported us. We had been secretly dating for 2 whole years, and before the accident, we were both ready to come clean to our families. Unfortunately, Ethan was saved by you. No wonder Yvonne hated me so much when she found out I was going to marry Ethan. But does that mean I should be blamed? I asked him more than once if he had a girlfriend. He chose to keep it a secret, and after the earthquake, he chose to marry me. Stella saw through my thoughts and chuckled softly. Are you curious why he wanted to marry you? I looked up at her, my intuition telling me this answer was not a good one. Because he found your secret love diary, Helen. When Stella said this, her tone was filled with hatred. Not earlier, not later, but just after you lost your legs and fell unconscious, he found your journal. He discovered it right in front of the elders of the Shin family. And you still say it wasn't intentional? Miss Helen. My mind went completely blank. It turned out he had read my diary. Ethan had intended to pretend he hadn't seen it, but Aunt Margaret beat him to it and saw it first. The elders meant well, they had watched me grow up, and the Shen and Jian families had been old friends for many years. So that day, Aunt Margaret asked him, do you like Helen? She originally thought that if both people had feelings for each other, being together wouldn't be a bad thing. Unexpectedly, Ethan thought it was pressure from the elders. I will marry her. Under what he believed was pressure, he gave up Stella and married me. So that's how it was. I thought about how I had opened my heart in excitement when I found out Ethan was going to marry me. It was simply a joke. He could divorce me now, but he hasn't. Stella gave a mocking smile, because you're useful. Ethan is at a critical point in his promotion. If people find out he abandoned the person who saved his life, what would they think of him? Miss Helen, you've already made things difficult for him once, don't make it twice, okay? With such scheming, who knows if losing your parents is karma? I couldn't hold back and splashed the coffee in front of her onto her face. She could say anything, but she had no right to mention my deceased parents. Helen, what are you doing? Ethan quickly shielded Stella in front of him. I pointed at her, she insulted my parents. Stella looked miserable, tears welling up in her eyes. I didn't, I was just explaining our past to her, it was she who. Ethan glared at me angrily, apologize, please. I stared at them for a while, then smiled, all right. Before I apologize, can I say something to you? Ethan didn't say anything, which meant he agreed. Come a little closer, I'm only telling you this. He walked over and bent down slightly. Slap. I slapped him with all my strength. Let's get a divorce. Ethan's face darkened completely. Helen, I told you, we can't get a divorce. Is he really that concerned about his own face and reputation? But this time I refused to let him sacrifice himself for the sake of appearances. Then just wait to be sued. I turned my wheelchair to leave, but a strong force yanked me away from it. I was thrown to the ground, Ethan's eyes bloodshot. Divorce? Look at you, a cripple, who would want you if you left me? I looked at him in disbelief, unable to believe those words came from his mouth. Was I born a cripple? Ethan snapped, yes, you saved me, you're my great benefactor. But come on, was it me begging you to save me? Did anyone ask if I wanted it? I'd rather be the one disabled. Do you know how much pressure this guilt puts on me? How much I've lost because of this debt, do you? He bitterly complained about the burden of owing me half his life. I wish you hadn't saved me. I stared at him blankly, a faint smell of urine wafting out. Overwhelmed by immense humiliation, I lost control. Seeing this, Ethan quickly lifted me back into the wheelchair. Look at yourself, what can you do without me now? His eyes full of disdain, he draped his coat over me. I'm taking you back. You need to calm down on your own. Ethan called a car for me, and the driver was a chubby middle-aged woman. He had warned her in advance and gave the driver a little extra tip to help push my wheelchair back after we reached the destination. Maybe she sensed I was in a bad mood because before leaving, she gave me a thumbs up and said, "Girl, there's still hope in life." She was probably afraid I might try to kill myself. No, I won't. Because just half an hour ago, I received a text message from a stranger. It was a screenshot of a chat. Ethan, your sister-in-law is dead set on divorcing you. Looks like Mr. George's side won't buy into your devoted husband image after all. But it's okay, if one path is blocked, we can take another. Do you remember Mr. Quinton I mentioned before? He loves messing with disabled people, and Helen just happens to be. Anyway, she's going to divorce you, so you might as well use this chance to catch her in the act and accuse her of cheating. That way, you won't have to bear the blame of abandoning the person who saved your life. Tomorrow night at 9, don't blame me for not giving you a chance. That person said a lot, but Ethan's single reply of okay left me utterly hopeless. So cruel, blaming me for saving him, putting pressure on me, and still squeezing out my last bit of worth to pave the way for him. I don't know who sent me this message, but whoever it was, I have to thank them. Helen, I'm home. Ethan came back, drunk. He staggered over to me and crouched down. I'm sorry, I was a jerk during the day. Can we not get a divorce? I looked at him calmly, showing a gentle smile. Okay. Really? I nodded and handed him a cup of warm milk. I was at fault during the day too. Drink this milk and sober up. I booked tickets to the Maldives for tomorrow. How about we go on a trip together? Ethan was first flustered, then confused. Tomorrow, let's talk about tomorrow. I smiled as I handed him the milk, watching him drink it down. The medicine took effect quickly, and as I expected, Ethan collapsed and lost consciousness. It's true that not being able to walk is a huge hassle. It took me a full 2 hours to chop off Ethan's leg. In the middle of it, he woke up and screamed wildly, forcing me to stop and shove a towel into his mouth. He shook his head frantically. I quickly reassured him, it's okay, I'm not going to kill you. I just want your 2 legs. Since you don't care about them anyway, you might as well give them back to me. He made a whimpering sound, probably pleading. I slapped the chat record onto his face, and he finally quieted down, left only with pain and despair. At dawn, I finally chopped off those 2 legs, the blade growing dull. Ethan slipped in and out of consciousness several times. I took the towel out of his mouth, he was barely breathing. Helen. Forget it, I stuffed the towel back in. I was too tired to listen. I realized too late that my life was already ruined the moment I lost my legs. Since he wants to destroy me completely, I'll just have to destroy him first. I lit the coal in the room and held him as he sobbed himself to sleep. Not bad. At the moment of awakening, the world lost a beast with a human face and a beast's heart. I didn't expect to be able to open my eyes. The numbness in my legs made me widen them in shock. I was reborn just before the accident happened. I suddenly jumped up, startling everyone else in the lab. Helen, are you okay? I stared at my own legs and gave a few perfunctory replies. I went back to my graduate school days. At that time, in order to be closer to Ethan, I chose the same major as him and even managed to join the same group. But that accident made me give up my studies again. Feeling the strength coming from my feet, I trembled with excitement all over. It is now 1:27 p.m. on May 8th, 10 minutes away from the ceiling coming loose and falling. Once, to save Ethan, I risked my life to push him aside, only to be trapped under the ceiling myself. Helen, what's wrong? A pair of large hands touched my forehead. It was Ethan. Do you have a fever? Do you need me to ask for leave for you? I instinctively pulled away from his hand. There was a hint of hurt in his eyes. Our strange behavior caught the attention of others. Hey, are the lovebirds having a fight? Usually, I was the one chasing after Ethan, and Ethan neither accepted nor rejected me, so everyone jokingly called us the little couple. No, he already has a girlfriend. I have nothing to do with him. I quickly denied it. In this lifetime, just being involved with Ethan felt like bad luck. Seeing me reject him so swiftly and mention his secret girlfriend, Ethan was slightly stunned. He lowered his voice. Helen, is there some kind of misunderstanding between us? I looked at him and suddenly understood the strange distance between us. Ethan has a girlfriend right now, yet he remains ambiguous with me, unwilling to admit it even when I confront him. He wants the thrill of a new romance but doesn't want to give up the care I've shown him? So the person I once liked was rotten from the start. Watch out. A shout interrupted my thoughts. The ceiling began to collapse just like in my past life, and Ethan was standing right in the center of it. I was only at the edge where the ceiling was falling. In my past life, I pushed Ethan away without regard for myself. This time, I quickly ran away from the danger. Helen? Ethan called out to me in disbelief. The next moment, the ceiling collapsed, and after Ethan's startled cry, he lost consciousness. Out of a sense of duty, I still called 911 for Ethan. The doctor said Ethan's legs were ruined, and from then on, he would have to live in a wheelchair. I held back my laughter with great effort. Ethan woke up, his voice hoarse and trembling with tears, as if I were a heartless person. Helen, why didn't you save me? You could have pushed me away. I tilted my head. Ethan, stop pretending. I know you were reborn too. Before we got married, Ethan never called me Helen, and just now he asked why I didn't save him. Caught off guard, Ethan's face flushed red. He had intended to take the moral high ground to gain the upper hand and make me feel guilty. I sat down beside him and gently patted his leg. Ethan, your legs are ruined. Do you remember what you said to me in your past life? Was I the one begging you to save me? Did anyone ask if I was willing? I would rather be the one disabled. I smiled at him. Weren't you unwilling? Now congratulations, your wish has come true. You don't need to feel guilty because of me. You've only lost your legs, but you're honest and straightforward, you don't have to force yourself to bear unnecessary burdens. Ethan stood there stunned, his face a riot of colors like a spilled palette. Helen, how did I never realize you were crazy before? Can't you tell when I'm just venting? His expression was exactly the same as in my past life when he shamelessly said he didn't need my help. I saved him, and he blamed me. I didn't save him, and he still blamed me. I was furious and slapped him. You know I'm crazy and still dare to talk back to me? Do you want to have your leg chopped off again? Hearing my words, Ethan suddenly trembled. So many things had happened one after another that he almost forgot how miserably he died in his past life. I was out of my mind. I've always hated women like you. It's better not to be forcibly tied to you in this life. He was struggling to save face. 10 minutes later, Aunt Margaret arrived, dust-covered and hurried. Uncle Richard was out of town on business and couldn't come back, leaving poor her, a mother, to bear this terrible news alone. Aunt Margaret, don't be too upset. At least he's still alive. Being alive is what matters. I offered Aunt Margaret a token comfort. In her past life, she wasn't exactly bad to me, but she wasn't particularly kind either. Before Ethan and I got married, she genuinely treated me like a daughter. After the wedding, she truly did care for me, but that care couldn't withstand the passage of time and the size of her own son. So, when Ethan's cousin bullied me, she chose to turn a blind eye. Ethan was a bit anxious. Helen, watch your manners. He didn't want Aunt Margaret to worry, but right now he couldn't even turn over by himself. Helen, your father and I are busy. Thank you for coming to take care of Ethan. Aunt Margaret sobbed as she held my hand. I know you have feelings for Ethan, but given the current situation. She broke down in tears again as she spoke. I understood what she meant. She was worried that no one would want Ethan, just as she had worried about me back then. I spoke without hesitation. Auntie, I only see Ethan as a brother. Besides, Ethan already has a girlfriend. Aunt Margaret looked at Ethan in disbelief. Is what Helen said true? Ethan pressed his lips tightly. He hadn't intended to reveal it so soon. I thoughtfully added, I've already informed her just now. I don't want to be the third party breaking them apart, I hope you understand. No sooner had I finished speaking than Stella, dressed in white, appeared at the door. Her reaction was much like Aunt Margaret's, shocked and tearful. Aunt Margaret had met Stella before, and she didn't like the girl very much. With two older sisters and a younger brother, Margaret felt such a family was unworthy of her son. But given the current situation, Aunt Margaret didn't say much and could only make an excuse to leave and buy some food. Stella, with her eyes red from crying, looked especially pitiable, yet Ethan avoided meeting her gaze. Helen, you shouldn't have called her. In my condition, how can I? He couldn't continue speaking as pale yellow liquid spread across the bedsheet. Stella instinctively took 2 steps back, a trace of disdain in her eyes. Ethan caught this scene, and his pride was deeply wounded. His pleading eyes looked at me. I remained unmoved. What are you doing? You're not expecting me to handle this, are you? Your girlfriend is right here, is this appropriate? After scolding Ethan, I turned to Stella and said, Miss Stella, I've heard a bit about your love story. You two are so in love, surely it's for life. If that's the case, you should start learning how to take care of a disabled person now. Under my urging and moral pressure, Stella struggled to help Ethan to his feet. The bathroom door slammed shut, and I didn't miss the look of resentment on Stella's face. I smiled. I was the one who had suffered the misfortune back then. They could indulge in their noble love of yearning and denial. Separated by distance, under the pressure of life, could they remain so steadfast? After a brief exchange with Aunt Margaret, I left. Ethan has a mother and a girlfriend, so naturally, he doesn't need someone like me hanging around in the way. I live my life as usual, attend classes as usual. I can walk freely, run freely. The long-lost feeling of freedom fascinates me. I heard Ethan hasn't given up and does rehabilitation exercises every day, but unfortunately, there's no improvement. Aunt Margaret contacts me every now and then, and between the lines, she expresses her dissatisfaction with Stella. It's just that Stella can't take care of Ethan as carefully as I do. Ethan also wanted to reach out to me, but unfortunately, I had blocked all his contact information. It wasn't until 3 months later, when I was having dinner with my senior brothers from the same group, that I ran into Ethan and his friends. Stella was pushing Ethan in a wheelchair coming towards us, and both of them looked unwell. Stella was busy scolding Ethan, not noticing my presence. What are you, a cripple, doing here? Are you trying to embarrass yourself? The tone of disdain was a stark contrast to the gentle manner Shaoi had shown earlier. It wasn't surprising that Stella lost her temper. I had quietly investigated, and Ethan's so-called romantic love was nothing but Stella's long-planned scheme. Stella came from a troubled family. She hoped to find a man who was wealthy but not very smart to help her change her fate. Ethan appeared at just the right moment, but unfortunately, in my past life, I had cut him off. As for this life, the embarrassed Ethan blushed red. If I don't come, how would I know what you and your friends say about me? Stella sneered. They say you're a cripple, a useless man? Are they wrong? Look at yourself, you need me to help you even to go to the bathroom, what else can you do? If it weren't to get away from that family, who would want to be with a cripple like you? Ethan trembled all over. You, what did you say? Stella ignored his murderous glare. If I had known taking care of a cripple was this troublesome, I should have aimed for someone else from the start. Ethan shouted angrily, divorce. Before the wedding is even held. It turned out they had already registered their marriage. It seemed Aunt Margaret was aware of her son's situation and no longer allowed him to be so picky. Stella, upon hearing this, punched him twice without holding back. Divorce? You think I don't want that? I've been taking care of you for 3 months, and I'm about to throw up. If it weren't for your mother, do you think I would have agreed to marry you? This is what Stella looks like after taking off her mask, utterly ruthless. But a person like her is a perfect match for Ethan. I couldn't help but laugh out loud, and finally, the two noticed me. Seeing me arrive, Stella hurriedly tossed off the hot potato that was Ethan. You came just in time, take your brother away. Back when Ethan and Stella were secretly dating, he always told Stella that I was his sister. Stella glanced at Ethan coldly. I'm going back to the party. Don't cause me any more trouble. Without looking back, Stella walked away, leaving Ethan and me staring at each other in silence. What he's going through now is exactly the same as what I went through back then. Ethan, do you remember what your friend said about me back then? Ethan turned his head away, his body trembling barely perceptibly. I'm sorry, I didn't know. I interrupted him. You know everything, you just don't care because it didn't happen to you. Alright, don't be upset. If you ask me, Stella has been pretty good to you. She only scolded you a couple of times, but she didn't hand you over to some old man with strange fetishes, did she? I meant to comfort him kindly, but I didn't expect his face to grow paler and paler. It's not. Helen, listen to me, I never meant to really hurt you. I had everything planned out. I had the room sprayed with a sedative beforehand. He would pass out before he could lay a hand on you, and the next day we would just pretend. He explained frantically, until he saw the icy, piercing look in my eyes. Actually, by that time I was already starting to fall for you. Slap. I struck him with all my strength. Feeling that one slap wasn't enough, I hit him several more times in quick succession. Ethan was furious, but now he was completely unable to fight back. I held back my anger. How dare you talk about love? Sending me to another man is love, letting your friends insult me is love, cheating on me is love. You don't love me, you just realized that after becoming disabled, your first love no longer loves you. What you want is simply someone who loves you wholeheartedly. Someone as selfish as you doesn't deserve love. Since that day, Ethan never came to see me again. My days grew more and more carefree, and occasionally someone would mention Ethan, saying he was living a very miserable life. I heard that Stella treats Ethan fairly well in front of Aunt Margaret, but behind his back, she either hits or scolds him. Ethan himself doesn't know what's gotten into him, being bullied like this, he just keeps silent. I really think he truly loves Stella. Yvonne has called me a few times, treating me like a close confidant in her words. That Stella, I used to think she was kind and gentle, but I never expected her to be so dark-hearted. Helen, it would be so much better if you were the one marrying Ethan. I smiled. Don't say that, Ethan and I are siblings. Yvonne sneered on the other end of the phone, you're not even biological siblings. Auntie only raised you for a few years, and your name isn't even on the household register. Helen, why don't you try to snatch the wedding? It's on the 10th of next month. Hearing her say that, my eyelid twitched uncontrollably. Suddenly, I remembered that before Ethan and I got married, Yvonne actually didn't harbor such strong hostility towards me. After I married Ethan, she suddenly seemed like a different person, growing closer and closer to Stella instead. Now the one married to Ethan is Stella, could it be? I asked casually, Yvonne, you wouldn't possibly like Before I could finish, the voice on the other end quickly denied it. No way, how could I possibly like my own cousin? After a long silence, Yvonne hesitated and said, all right, it's true there's a bit of, but he's my cousin, so there's no way we could be together. That's why I want to find a good wife for him. Helen, don't you really want to consider my cousin? I smiled and brushed it off, then saved the recording with a flick of my hand. I'll go. Yvonne let out an excited cheer. A month later, I showed up at the wedding. When I arrived, Ethan was being pushed out by Stella to greet the guests. Ethan probably felt embarrassed, gritting his teeth. Do you really have to make me come along? Stella slapped the back of his head. If you keep talking nonsense, I'll tear your mouth apart. I never expected their relationship to have deteriorated this much. The only reason they could still get married was thanks to Aunt Margaret, who deliberately wanted to torment Stella. When Ethan was healthy, she would never have allowed someone like Stella, from that kind of family background, to get close to her son. But now that Ethan is disabled, families of equal social standing naturally don't want to marry their daughters to him. Aunt Margaret originally wanted me to be her daughter-in-law, but a few months ago Ethan was determined to be with Stella, so she no longer had the face to ask me to take care of Ethan. Isn't Stella's family all about money? Aunt Margaret simply gave them $300,000 at once to buy Stella. After the family took the money, they happily handed over Stella's household registration book. At first, Stella was willing to care for Ethan half-heartedly for the money. Only after marriage did she realize she had been bought off by the Shin family, and Aunt Margaret wouldn't give her a single extra cent. Divorce? That was even more out of the question. Wasn't it supposed to be an earth-shattering love? Then lock it down. Ethan saw me. He looked at me from afar, his gaze falling on my legs, filled with longing. Aunt Margaret never showed up. This was a blatant slap in Stella's face. I just don't understand, has the Shin family also given up on Ethan? Yvonne, sitting at the relatives' table, saw me and quietly gave me an okay sign. This was the plan she came up with, during the intermission of the wedding, to reveal all the little moments Ethan and I had shared over the years. In her words, Ethan still had feelings for me, and when that happened, he would definitely feel regretful, maybe even call off the wedding publicly. This way, not only would the wedding be ruined, but it would also be the ultimate slap in Stella's face. However, she deliberately avoided mentioning it, which also put me in an awkward position. Hey, isn't this Ethan's little sidekick? A familiar voice said. I turned around and saw the brother of Ethan who had embarrassed me before. Looking at that gaze of yours, you can't be hung up on the disabled, can you? You don't have some kind of weird fetish, do you? His words were flippant, showing no respect for me or for Ethan. Howard. If you don't want to eat this meal, then get the hell out. Ethan appeared by my side without me noticing when, angrily scolding his former brother. Howard looked us up and down with contempt. Do you still think you're some big shot? I see you as a cripple, pathetic. Let me tell you, your father has already taken your 12-year-old brother back home. I was genuinely surprised to learn that the Shin family actually had an illegitimate child. It seems Ethan has already been abandoned by Uncle Richard, and as for Aunt Margaret, forget it. Howard, get out of here. Ethan was on the verge of rage, but unfortunately, he couldn't get up to hit him. Howard was kicked out by Ethan, yet he casually sat down anyway. Ethan, what are you causing a scene about again? Stella chased after him, kicking Ethan's disabled leg with no mercy. Not embarrassed enough today, are you? Stella unleashed another round of scolding and berating at Ethan. Howard laughed heartily. Come on, sis-in-law, cut him some slack in public. Besides, his ex is here. As he spoke, he turned his gaze toward me. I didn't want to stir up trouble now, but Howard has always been despicable, whether in this life or the last. I grabbed the bottle of red wine from the table and splashed it straight at him, warning him through his shocked gaze, how you insult Ethan is your business, but watch your mouth when it comes to me. Otherwise, I won't hesitate to tell the Shin family about your dirty dealings. For example, that Mr. Leonard likes. In the past life, Howard loved introducing all kinds of girls to bosses with perverse tastes. That Mr. Leonard was the lover Howard found for Ethan. Howard immediately quieted down like a quail when he heard me mention Mr. Leonard. Ethan choked up as he called out to me, "Helen. I'm sorry, I really didn't know life after becoming disabled would be like this." The sudden display on the big screen interrupted Ethan's confession. I saw Yvonne stand up excitedly. "Helen, why don't you go for a shotgun wedding? On the 10th of next month." "Yvonne, you wouldn't possibly like." "How could I? How could I possibly like Ethan?" "Well, okay, maybe a little, but he's my cousin, so that's definitely out of the question. So I want to find a good wife for my cousin." There was no image on the screen, but the conversation between Yvonne and me was clearly heard by everyone. The already chaotic wedding became even more disorderly. Yvonne screamed, demanding to stop the playback, but Stella strode forward and started beating her. She cursed loudly, and no one could stop her. I clicked my tongue in amazement. Of course, a girl raised in a rural, male-preference family could never be a delicate little flower. Thinking back to when she and I were talking in the restaurant, those peaceful, carefree days, I could only feel the irony. I quietly slipped away amidst the chaos, with Ethan calling out to me repeatedly from behind. What happened afterward, I heard from others. After Yvonne's shameful intentions were exposed, her parents had a huge fight. They believed that Ethan must have crossed some line, which led Yvonne to develop misguided feelings for him. Uncle Richard, who was already disappointed in Ethan, completely gave up on him this time. Even Aunt Margaret reluctantly gave up on her son. Fortunately, the mother of that illegitimate child had died early. At worst, she could treat him as her own son and still have time to build a good relationship. Stella was on the verge of madness, her reputation was ruined, and she was widely known as a shrew. She wanted a divorce, but the Shin family had no intention of letting her go. The Shin family believed that they had lost a son because of this woman. If she hadn't bewitched Ethan and I would have been a couple. Given my feelings for Ethan, how could I not have saved him in that accident? If I end up with a broken leg, at worst, I'll have Ethan marry me. The Shin family was naturally happy to seize such a good opportunity to gain fame. Their scheming was so effective that my last shred of sympathy for the Shin family vanished. 6 months later, Ethan committed suicide. Before he died, he took Stella with him. I heard that it was Stella who hooked up with Howard and quietly introduced Ethan to the old man with peculiar tastes. Afterwards, Ethan went completely mad when he woke up. He cried, saying he knew he was wrong and that he had been deluded at the time, while cursing Stella to a terrible fate. In the end, he muttered incoherently that if he could change time again, he would definitely choose Helen without hesitation. He hired someone to sneak into his own house and quietly replace the supplements Stella often took with sleeping pills. While Stella was unconscious, he set the house on fire, burning himself along with it. After Ethan died, I received a letter. It was from Ethan, and I guessed it was nothing more than some empty confessions. I didn't even open the envelope, I just threw it straight into the trash. Start over? Impossible. God does not give the wicked a second chance. Even if he did, no matter how many times it repeated, I would never waver for him again. I have a clear life goal, I will only become a better version of myself.